Thank you. That's such an important question. So when the Supreme Court overturned all of the state's drug laws, it was in the middle of legislative session. Big policy like that is something we usually spend many months with, at least before legislative session, working on, but we were set to scramble to figure out what policy we could get the votes to pass. So what we passed was a mandate, frankly, a temporary 2-year policy that we knew we'd have to come back and fix. And I can tell you, it hasn't been working. I hear that from neighbors at the doors, and I freely admit it. We need to do something differently. We have some work groups that are bringing proposals forward, but I think I've been in conversation with many of our law enforcement officers and our police chiefs and sheriffs, first responders. What we need is a little more power to push folks in to treatment, to ensure that we're tracking across jurisdictions, none of which is happening right now. And I look forward to being at the table to make sure we get something across the finish line that addresses those needs.
So I'm glad to hear Senator Randall admit that they didn't fix it. Unfortunately, we did have a bill to fix it. The Blake decision settled on the definition of a word. So I co-sponsored the bill. Actually, I prime-sponsored the bill, had a number of co-sponsors on it that would have rechanged or redefined the definition so that we could have gone back to the law that was in place before the decision. Unfortunately, Senator Randall refused to co-sponsor that bill. As a result, we got a fix that we knew wasn't going to work. We could have gone back to what was, and then we could have worked to make things better. But instead, we got a radical new push that defunded our police, that handcuffed our police, kept these drugs legal, and now we're dealing with parents that are worried about their kids having drugs slung to them because you can't arrest a kid as long as they've got a size of fentanyl or cocaine that's considered a personal use. We need to go back to the original definition.
What was the definition? Explain that.
The definition had to deal with what they considered personal use. And so when they came in there, and there is national history on how that has always been interpreted. So our law was written many years ago under that national definition. The state Supreme Court came in and radically redefined that for the first time in our country's history.
Different legislation.
And so I wrote legislation that would clearly redefine what that word meant to that definition, and it would have fixed the solution outright, and then we could have started with where we were, that we knew worked, would have worked for all of our multi-layers of governments. All the distribution of money that we distribute would have gone back to a level starting place that wouldn't have put our kids at risk, and then we could have moved forward with additional solutions. The problem was, instead of going back to the starting point that we knew worked, that we knew protected our kids, the Democrat Party chose to go in a different direction. They used the Blake decision as a means to push a radical agenda, and now our kids are paying the price.